But the full form of ERP is Enterprise Resource Planning, and SAP is one of those products which falls under ERP. So basically, what it is like, for huge organizations, say like, say for example Nike or Adidas or any kind of huge organizations which have individual multiple departments. If you see in my screen, so say sales and distributions, material management, production planning, finance, accounting, controlling. Say if your organization is small, managing these resources and planning will be very easy. And if your organization is huge, spread across continents, and if you have like n number of employees, and it would be hard for to have integration among these individual departments, and it would be a Herculean task basically, right? So to address these and to tailor these kind of to come up with some solutions, enterprise resource planning has come up. So the ideology of enterprise resource planning to have a seamless integration across all these modules. And for example, if all these individual modules are maintained by individual softwares for respective modules, and from a higher management perspective, they wanted to look into each of the individual departments' progress, it would be difficult for them to manage across each of these departments. So they came up with an idea, to integrate all these departments for better transparency and better workload. Basically to have a seamless integration. This whole ideology of ERP has came into picture. So SAP has been a leader in ERP background, and to list a few other ERP packages existing in the system, there is Oracle, JD Edwards, and Microsoft has also has its own ERP package called Microsoft Dynamics. So, but if you look at from the statistical point of view, 80% of the existing ERP has been owned by SAP, and if we list on the Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 or even Fortune 5000, so most of these companies run SAP. So the list goes on and on. So let's not talk more about the greatness of SAP. So let's look into what SAP actually is. So SAP stands for Systems, Application and Products in Data Processing. So this is not actually an equivalent term of SAP. SAP is actually owned by a German company. So this is the closest equivalent of English translate actually. So and basically AG is again a German term, so which represents company. So if you see SAP AG is like SAP company, or you even see SAP GmbH, which is also a German term basically, which represents company and organization. So that is what SAP basically in short, and so basically you hear these kind of terms, name of the softwares like SAP R3 and SAP ERP, sorry. So SAP R3 is nothing but R3 represents, SAP is a 3-tier architecture basically. So and ERP is we spoke about it. So since it is an enterprise resource planning, so it talks about SAP. We call it as SAP ERP. So this is like a little introduction of what is ERP and what is SAP basically stands for. So these are the little statistics about SAP which we don't need to be worried a lot about. So if you see this particular screen, these are the existing ERP packages in the market, and SAP is still the leader. And if SAP and another ERP packages here, if you see from Oracle. So these are the major players which we hear these names day in and day out. Microsoft, we don't have to mention more about it. So I think almost everyone who knows a bit about computers knows Microsoft. So even they are also having a ERP package of its own. If you see here, this is Dynamics, and Sage Group has its own ERP package, and there are a couple of others in the market. So And SAP, the reason why it was being a very hit product because of the seamless integration and multiple support. For example, it almost support more than 300 languages SAP, and recently SAP started its support to Hindi also, and Indian Post also are the first ones to implement SAP in Hindi, and that is just part of the story. So that's why it's like it's highly flexible and it's highly customizable, and these are all a few of the advantages. And for example, if you have like if your organization is huge, as I said earlier, and if the way you run your show may not may not be how do I say, similar to the way how your competitors runs your business. So you have to customize your software according to your own business. So SAP helps you with customization to a very great extent. So that is also one of the biggest advantages and cutting edge of SAP if you compare it with the other ERP packages existing in the market. And these are very few points which actually talks more about SAP. So I'll not confuse you with more of the SAP information, and I'll try to. And before that, I would like to know from you, like, what is the information that you're looking to know from this session, basically?
Basically, they told me like it would be a demo session. I thought you will teach some basics about the SAP, and I thought you will be introduced to the system.
Okay. Okay. Unfortunately, I don't have any system at this point. It seems like I tried to take out a few others. It seems to be down for maintenance. One second. Give me a moment. Yep, seems like they brought the system down for some maintenance activities. So it's fine, it's okay. So as I said, so SAP basically is a three-tier architecture. If you see here SAP R3, you would have maybe you would have heard this word because you already said like. Okay, so basically what these three layers are like, first the presentation layer, application layer, and database layer. Let's forget about these technical terminology for a while and try to apply this in our real world. For example, everyone must be using Skype or Google Talk or whatever it is. Okay, so let's apply the same here. Okay, the GUI or the whatever you see in your laptop or front end is called a presentation layer. In the same thing applies to SAP also. And the application layer is nothing but I can compare it with the internet connection to help you move to make you understand more about. For example, so that is what the internet connection is, what is helping you to establish a connection between the presentation layer and the database layer. So database layer is where all the data exists. So if you compare the same with SAP R3, so it basically runs on three layers. GUI is nothing but graphic user interface. The interface that is where you open up a dialog with SAP, and that is how you actually interact with SAP. And that is your presentation layer basically. And application layer is all your program logic exists in the application layer. Whatever the programs you develop, whatever the configurations you maintain, or the way you define the system is all done in the application layer basically. And database layer consists of all your core data or raw data. So, and the information passes from presentation layers from presentation layer to the application layer and then to the database server basically. And so this is how in a snapshot. So the presentation layer, it could be either through PCs or laptops or anyways, and through some interfaces through internet transaction servers or web servers, that information or whatever the request be do it from the front end will be translated into the application servers, and then ultimately it will be interacting with the database in the third layer. So this is the SAP architecture, basically SAP R3. So this is the existing architecture, I would say, and initially when it was introduced back in 70s, it was all in one single layer. So down the line, and after years of uh, working together and performance optimization and improvisation. So at this point, I would say this is R3. Maybe in future it might turn into cloud very soon. It already is in place, HANA. So maybe in very near future you might not see this architecture. Sorry. Yes, you might not see this architecture, but for now this architecture is still very much valid. So are you clear between, like, at least from higher level point of view, what is SAP R3 basically? Why do we call R3? Yeah. So
Yeah,
since
good.
it runs
I'm
on
good.
yeah, so since it runs on three layers, the architecture runs basically on 3 layers. That's the reason why we call it as R3. Before 90s, it used to be called as R2. Basically, it used to run on 2 layers, where application layer and database layer used to be residing in the same layer, basically. So with the complexities and with the greater business requirements, evolution is what happens basically. So it comes up with a better performance to address these issues. They have segregated application layer and database layer. So these improvisations always happens. So if you see from higher level point of view, so and SAP stays in the center, and these are the other uh, the applications which integrate with your SAP all the time. So let's talk individually what these basically are. So I will not explain everything for now. So I'll just like to give a brief introduction about what these could be. So for example, SAP SRM is also one of the solutions given by SAP. So basically SRM addresses all your shopping cart requirements, all your procurement requirements. For example, for any organizations, they have to procure certain materials, or they'll be doing all sorts of outsourcings, and they'll be doing purchases, everything. So all the to accommodate all these requests, SAP has came with something called supplier relationship management. So, and depending upon the business you run and your requirements, you may choose one of these products. So and if I talk about CRM, for example, if your organization is mostly into, let's take Thomson Reuters as an example, where most of its business is run based on your customer base. So if your they provide intelligent information just like Google. So their customer base is their business, basically the heart of their business. So they need to have better approach in maintaining their customer information, and all this information can be accommodated in SAP CRM basically. So CRM is like customer relationship management. For example, if your business is more into shopping carts, shopping, for example, take Nike or Adidas. So most of their information would require how they maintain their shopping carts and all this information. So they'll come up with SRM as one of their products. They might extend this product also along with ERP. So SAP PLM is nothing but project lifecycle management. So likewise, SAP has its own tools to address your individual business needs, basically. So this is a higher level. For example, if you see this particular snapshot here, you can compare it with SAP ERP here. So so basis in security and ABAP stays in the middle.
Hello. Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I can hear you now. Till now, I'm not able to hear you.
Yeah, I just got the pop-up saying, sorry, give me a minute. Yeah. Okay, so where did we drop out actually? I am not sure like when my voice got dropped down.
Near the, you are saying that ABAP basis and
Okay, okay,
there
fine,
in the
fine.
middle.
Okay, okay. So basically, if you look at from a higher level point of view, security, I could list down 3 modules which are like purely technical. So ABAP is nothing but your programming language for SAP. So ABAP stands for Advanced Business Application and Programming. So basically this is nothing but how you might have heard about C, C++ and Java. So you can, by learning these programming languages, you can implement or you can write programs in that particular language. So likewise, if you wanted to develop some programs in SAP, so you should be well versed with ABAP. And that's again completely into technical side. For example, if you wanted to get into SAP HR, so you should know the basics of HR first, and then you can learn SAP HR. So it's kind of techno-functional, I would say. So you should have the core knowledge of HR, and then you can apply that particular knowledge in SAP HR by translating your HR expertise into the way the system that can understand. So if you take basis and security, so basis is if you know basis, basis are the ones who actually responsible for setting up or building that particular landscape. So they are nothing but administrators. So just like your network admins or any administrator, basis responsibility is to make sure like system is up and running, and performance tuning, all these issues will be taken care by SAP basis. And let's talk about security factor. So till this point, if you have any questions, you can ask me.
No, I'm good.
Okay. So I'll jump into security right now. Okay. So okay, so these are the topics which I thought like I'll have a brief overview about what is SAP security and introduce you to SAP GRC, because I know it's not fair to talk completely about security, GRC, and SAP in one demo session. So I'll try to address as much as I can and to give you a brief idea about all these things. So security comes into picture. For example, if I compare, so security, security also stays along with basis. Basically, basis and security used to be one and same maybe 5 or 6 years ago, and since with the with the greater exposure on auditing and to prevent financial frauds. For example, if you take recent examples, it's like you must have heard about Satyam Computers. So how the company has toiled around financial data and misled the auditors, and with greater exposure on secure finance to prevent these fraudulent activities. Security in the recent days has turned out to be a standalone module separating itself from basis. Maybe before 2004 or 2005, basis and security used to be one and same, and all the basis persons used to perform security activities. But with recent implementation of SOX and segregation of duties and strict laws, strict land of the laws, security has emerged as an individual module on its own. So uh, let's see now where we stand exactly. So why do we need security in general? Can you say like why do we need security in any system? Forget about SAP. So to prevent unauthorized access basically. So and that's why we actually we think of security. For example, if you own a system and multiple persons are accessing your system, you don't want anyone else apart from the authorized people to to modify the data, delete data, or anything. You don't want any misuse of the data which is being present in the system. So to prevent that, we enforce security basically. So and everything in SAP works. For example, let's forget about SAP. Even let's take an example in laptop. So if you wanted to open my computer, you'll browse through start menu and go and open my computer. So that means basically you're calling a program in the backend. So likewise in SAP also, every activity you perform, will be initiated through a program. So which is again they are connected to something called transaction codes or T codes. So if you are trying to get into SAP world, you will be hearing this term day in and day out, T code or transaction code. So T code or transaction code is nothing but a shortcut to initiate any particular program in SAP. So for example, if you wanted to perform any activities related to user administration or something, we'll be calling a program, we'll be calling a transaction code called SU01. So let me just try if I can access any of the SAP systems. It will be easy. Sriram, are you online? Hello. I think it's working. Give me a moment. I think I might have killed someone's session accidentally. Okay, it's all right. So this is how an SAP system basically looks like. So, can you see my screen, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So to log into that, let's say, as soon as this is your logon pad where you log into individual systems, and the initial, this is your initial screen. As soon as you get into, it might all look new for you, but it's all right. So as soon as you give in user ID and password, this is actually the welcome screen, I would say. So here it contains the information and client details and the user ID information, all the basic information you'll be looking into. So for example, as a security administrator, someone else is working on this system. I'm not sure. I think I may have to skip this part.
Okay.
I don't want to interfere. I don't want to interfere with someone else.
Yeah, I have seen some of these things on my husband's
Yeah. So basically, so I think I should have 1 second in a minute. Navigation, yes. So yeah, so this is what this is called SAP logon pad basically. So depending, for example, in any landscape you will have like, so let's say like if you have SAP in your organization, let's say you own an organization, you have implemented SAP in your organization. So basically, how do you expect this to be? So forget about SAP. If you are trying to implement or if you are trying to introduce any new product into market, basically what you will do initially, you will do something called development, and you will do something called testing, and then you will release that product into market. So ideally, from high level perspective, you are passing by 3 phases, right? So development, testing, and production. And production is nothing but introducing that particular product into market. So let's apply the same into SAP world also. So but that means if you're trying to implement something new, so you're first doing some research and trying to do the development activities. So you need a development system basically, and then you're trying to test your developmental activities. So to do that, you wanted to do a quality check. So you need a quality system, and then once once you're satisfied with all the development whatever you have maintained, or fixing bugs, for example, if you have identified some bugs during this testing, so you will apply some new changes back into the existing development, and once everything looks good, so you'll be moving implementing those changes in production, or releasing those changes into live action. So these are basically 3 stages. So even if you look from a higher level perspective, so you will be passing 3 stages, something called development, quality, and production. So that would be your landscape basically. So just try to imagine the same here. So you will be seeing like 3 systems basically. If you're depending upon your size of your organization and complexity of the landscape, the number of systems you see in this log1 file might be increasing or decreasing. So I'm trying to explain it in a simple way. So I'll imagine you have smaller organization and simplest landscape. Basically, you will see 3 systems. One represents development, and one represents quality, and one represents production. So once, depending upon which stage of the project you are, or depending upon what kind of activity you are performing, you will be logging into each of these individual systems. So you might be asking, why do you see so many systems here? It could be because one would be related to SAP R3. R3 is nothing but general your standard system, and one would be related to your SRM, SAP SRM. So SAP SRM is nothing but your system which addresses your shopping cart related issues or any procurement related issues. So like that, if you have implemented CRM also, so likewise you have 3 SAP individual products. So 3 is 9 systems you might be seeing. So each SAP R3 development, SAP SRM development, and SAP CRM development. So likewise, quality for all the 3 products, and production for all the 3 products. So you might be seeing 9. So depending upon the size of your organization and how your landscape is basically designed. For example, if you have like good resources, and if your company has like good budgeting capabilities, so you might be doing complete developmental activities in one box, and testing of those developmental activities can be done in another box. And you might be having selected list of users who will be using this particular product in live system or production system, and you have replicated the same environment into another production copy. So it's just like pilot products. You might have heard of these kind of things, right? For example, if some new product is being released in some market, so some people might have just like how when a new phone is being released into the market, few people might have access to that phone, or might have already used that phone even before releasing. So the same thing can be applied here. Like production copy, you can replicate the same and have a selected list of users and do those changes in live environment, and based upon the inputs, you can have them implemented in production. So depending upon, if your organization doesn't have any budgeting issues, ideally you can see 4 systems in your live landscape. If you wanted to be cost efficient, if you are looking from a cost cutting point of view, you might see a simplest landscape comprising of 3 systems. So any questions on this landscape strategies basically? So, any given SAP landscape will definitely have 3 systems for sure: one development, and one quality, and one production. That is how the general workflow goes in any organization, irrespective of what are the software or what are the what are the product you are releasing into the market. So do you agree with that?
Yeah.
So just like if we translate the same into SAP world, the same thing applies here. So this is how the actual SAP looks like, SAP actual menu. So if you want to know more about For example, if you expand one of these, depending upon the roles and responsibilities of your particular, for example, if you are a finance background and if you are performing any finance related activities, you will be seeing those how do I say that menu here. For example, since this is a demo systems, you are able to see human resources, logistics, accounting, everything. So if you are from a human resource background, you will be seeing all the activities related to human resources for each person. So, and how this menu and how all the controlling activities will be taken care by the security consultant. For example, say like you are a new joinee in any organization from HR department. So someone has to create your ID in the SAP, right? So it's not like I can go ahead and create SAP access for you, and I should be knowing about your job responsibilities and your day-to-day activities. So I should be knowing about to which business process or which business unit you belong to. For example, within HR, there could be many number of processes within HR. Say payroll processing, or would I say compensation management, or performance analysis, or it could be a number of departments. So for example, I'll take standard example, say payroll processing, which is considered as the most sensitive job responsibilities. Sensitive in the sense like because the data that you people will be having access to is considered as the most sensitive, because you're not supposed to share that data with anyone else. So basically, I will be giving you access to you, which anyone else cannot see. So I have to create a separate roles and responsibilities for you, and make sure like those roles are assigned to you, and you based upon what kind of access you are assigned into the system, you will be able to see in this in here menu. Okay. So if you see here, this is SAP menu in here. Depending upon the roles which you are being assigned to while creating the user ID, your access in the system, you will be able to see that exact menu. For example, if you are into SAP security, you might be seeing user administration, role administration. Role administration is nothing but grouping multiple activities into for example, if you are a security administrator, what could be the possible responsibilities you might be performing? So you will be responsible for creating of users. You will be responsible for maintaining individual roles. Roles are nothing but group of transactions or group of programs. Any individual will be performing and made it as one role. So that we assign to the users basically. So depending upon what roles that user ID is assigned to, he will be able to perform those activities in system. So just like for example, how would I say? If you are a premium user in take any forums, so they'll be disabling you. For example, if you are a paid, paid subscriber, you might be able to see more information about, just say LinkedIn. Take LinkedIn for example. LinkedIn, if you are a paid customer, you will be able to see elevated access, like who viewed your profile, just like, because the roles which you are assigned to in the backend is reflecting your access in the front end. So same thing applies here also. So for example, this is where all the other menu basically belongs. So for now you can ignore that. So these are all the individual functions. For example, just like how run command in our start and menu, this is where we call it as command line. For example, if you wanted to execute any transaction code, you can do it by 3 ways. Either by navigating through individual menus here, for example, and once you open any of these menu, there will be submenus in that. So, and then you can call individual functions. So for example, these could be individual functions, right? MM03, and you can either navigate through each of these individual menus and submenus, or you can straight away call that particular function by executing that particular transaction code here. This is called command line. So if you're getting into SAP, and say most of your work, any initializations you will do will be done from this particular command line. This is where you enter your transaction codes. So for example, if I wanted to access my computer or C drive, I'll just go straight away and say hit C and enter. I can access C drive here. Or I can either go into start and say my computer and say hit my computer. So same thing applies here. So basically understanding the difference, right? What is menu? So that's like
yeah, I've gone through all these things, so
yeah. So it must not be something new for you. So
yeah.
The only thing is like
deep into it, but I just learned.
Yeah, at least they look very familiar to you basically. So basically, what happens? So for example, if you wanted to perform any user-related activities, right? So either I can, I'll be a bit more specific in this case. Either I'll go through that menu, sub-menu, or call, and select that particular program. For example, as as the responsibilities grows, and maybe, for example, if you are doing multiple activities, you are not comfortable, going through individual menu and sub-menu all the time. Maybe down the line by practice, you will know what that particular function is. For example, day in and day out, you will be doing user-related activities, user administration. So down the line by experience, you will know user administration is achieved through, can be, called through SU01. SU01 is nothing but a shortcut for that particular program. So you will straight away go into the command line and say SU01 and enter. It will take you directly into the user administration tab. So I think this particular slide in general talks about security. So that you don't have to think this is only for SAP security. This is in general IT security, I would say. So the objectives of security in any organization, be it IT, anything, is to achieve these three, confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These are the three main factors why we implement security. I think I can explain if you want, but if you are aware of these, I'll skip this particular slide.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, confidentiality is nothing but something. As the name itself says, these are general terms. Integrity, I would say. How would I say? For example, if ten people are accessing one computer or system. So for example, let's say computer in real world. So for example, if you have maintained some phone numbers, 50 phone numbers in an Excel spreadsheet and saved it in your computer. So for example, multiple people are accessing your information, and maybe someone else with a little computer knowledge was trying to access the same Excel file, and maybe out of knowledge or maybe out of innocence, or it could be intentionally, they edited one of those information. And when you try to access the same information again, you find that information as invalid. So that means, the integrity of that particular information has been spoiled. Integrity in the sense, like, the credibility of the information, which was not supposed to be edited, has been edited. So the integrity of that particular information is spoiled. So which was not supposed to happen. So you don't want that to happen all the time. So down the line, you will be segregating people. Okay, I know I'll give this edit access to only few people who knows computer knowledge. So the same thing you can apply across any IT sector. So people with proper knowledge should be given access to with their job responsibilities. So for example, if I'm an HR consultant, and I will be having access to change payroll information data. So, but as an individual user, as an end user, you will be given access only to view that particular data. If everyone in the organization is given access to edit the data, I'll go ahead and change my payroll data and I'll have more take home. So you don't want that to happen. You want the integrity in the system to be intact. So integrity is like having limited access on, I would say, people with defined job responsibilities should have access to their own responsibilities. Segregation of duties should be there. For example, I from security department should not have access to HR related activities. So there is some segregation, right? Segregation of duties. So integrity and segregation of duties, I would say, go hand in hand in SAP security. And availability, we can take the same example. For example, say I'll take standard example, say HR. So if you have the payroll information of all the employees at one place and make it available for everyone, what will happen? So everyone will peep into each other's payroll data and see, okay, this person is having some, say, is earning $10,000 more than me, and but he is not growing properly. So these kind of imbalances will start cropping up in the organization. So we should also make sure, like, every individual within your organization should be given access to certain information, and certain information has to be kept available. For example, I can be able to access payroll information only for my ID. I should not be in a position to view the data for someone else's. So I can segregate that in the availability part. So this is a simple example, but as your business grows complex, you need more and more expertise. So to have these issues addressed. So that's where security consultants will come into picture. For example, I'll give you another example. Just say I'm into procurement department. So I have logged a request, but I have raised an invoice for buying a new mobile, and the request will be going to your manager or your immediate supervisor. Basically, if I have access to go and approve that request, so what I'll do, I'll just go ahead and create an invoice for purchasing of a new mobile phone, and then I'll go ahead and into the system again, and I'll approve that request and make send it to the procurement department. So if I have access to procurement department also, what I'll do, I'll go ahead and change the shipping address in the invoice to my home address. So basically what happens, you're utilizing your company resources for your own benefit, so which you don't want that to happen. So that's where your segregation of duties will come into picture. So basically segregation of duties, what it talks about, any individual should not have access to one end-to-end business functionality. For example, let's take this mobile phone procurement is one business functionality. So what could be the possible steps involved during this process? First thing, you have to log an invoice, for buying that mobile phone. So you will log an invoice. So you'll go into that and create a shopping cart. The next thing, someone has to approve it. So someone has to monitor your activities. For example, since you are given access to buy a mobile phone, you should not be going and buying phone beyond your budget. So there should be a control where your activities has to be monitored. So we set up an approver. So it could be your immediate supervisor, or depending upon the budgeting segregations within your organization, someone else will be doing the next step of that particular cycle. So once that cycle has been taken care, it will be next sent to the procurement department. So there they'll make sure, like, okay, for example, okay, you have logged a request, and they are making sure like this particular request is for proper business use. So you can log a request, and maybe out of innocence, or out of lack of proper information, your immediate supervisor might not see the billing address, so or the shipment address. Are you really going to use that particular product for official purpose or for personal purpose? So it's the responsibility of the procurement team to make sure, like, that particular product is being shipped to the office premises only, and will be lying in the office only. So basically what happens in one end-to-end business cycle, you're making sure, like, each of these duties are separated. So that there will be no fraudulent activities. You're preventing all the fraudulent activities even before they are happening. So that's called, in general, segregation of duties, basically. So it's the security consultants also will play a major role in implementation of segregation of duties. So you got an idea, right, what is segregation of duties, basically?
Yes.
So and GRC talks a lot about segregation of duties. So security could be business espionage, it could be out of. So in reality, most of the issues happen either out of curiosity or accidental access. Very few cases happen out of intentions. For example, you might wanted to create an invoice for $1,000. Maybe you got disturbed from some colleague next to you, and you'll enter $10,000 and submit that invoice. So accidentally, if it happens out of accident. So for example, curiosity, for example, I'll say same HR example I'll take. So maybe not everyone might be, end user might not be getting anything by knowing someone else's payroll data, but it's just out of curiosity. So I may not be gaining anything out of knowing someone else's payroll data, but it's just curiosity. So in reality, this is how we actually think. So I will not talk more about authorization objects basically because it will need a bit more of technical background. So from a high level perspective, how would I say, let me open another presentation which will talk about. Okay, so this is the standard slide anyone would say to give you a brief snapshot of what is authorization object. Everything in SAP, every security feature within SAP is being implemented through authorization objects. So these are nothing but in real world. For example, if you have every door is protected with a key and a lock. So depending upon the impressions which are being made, which are being present in that particular lock key, you will be able to open that lock door. So same thing you can, how would I say, for example, every ID in SAP will be assigned to one role, but that doesn't mean that since you are assigned to roles, you will not be able to access every possible function. So this is a bit more technical. I don't want to confuse you straight away. So so what happens basically is, for example, if the user try to access any SAP program, so initially that you first particular user will be calling that particular program through one transaction code. So depending upon the kind of activity we maintain in this particular authorization object, for example, I'll take HR department again as the same example. HR associate and HR manager, there will be two people, and HR manager will be in a position to edit payroll data, whereas HR associate should not be able to in a position to edit the payroll data. So if any HR associate is able to do, he can he's in a position to change his own payroll data too. So ideally we'll not be in a, we are not so comfortable giving that edit access, but to what extent we'll be giving that access till the display. So associate will be able to see the uh, data but not edit, but manager will be able to see and still can edit. So basically what happens, as soon as the user executes a calls that particular transaction, it will be accessing that particular program related to HR payroll data, and depending upon the kind of activity, for example, we give access to display only for HR associates and assign that particular role to user. And for managers, we will be giving display access, edit access to managers and display access to, how would I say, to associates. So that particular check will be happen in the second stage. So that depending upon the objects which we maintain in the authorization object, so end user will be able to see that. This is a, how would I say, 4-stage cycle basically. And all this information will be basically maintained in tables. So this is how the basic user master looks. I would have showed all these things in the system, but unfortunately we don't have access to SAP at this point. And This is more about SAP GRC. GRC stands for Governance, Risk and Compliance. So nowadays it is more of advanced SAP security. So to get into SAP GRC, for any technical consultant, you should be well versed with SAP security. So basically what happens is most of your work, what you do will be automated in SAP GRC, and it is mostly for SAP GRC is again governance, risk and compliance. Is again comes with 3 modules basically: risk management, process control, and access control. And security consultant, access control is what security consultants will be dealing with. For example, if you are an auditor and you'll be interested more into process control, so you'll be defining the processes. And access control, what happens is, for example, as soon as any user ID is created and some roles are created, roles are assigned to that particular ID. So access control, GRC access control takes care of so all the audit related issues. For example, any conflicting roles or any conflicting activities are being assigned or not, it will take a look into that. So it will help, initially it will make sure, like, once you are implementing SAP GRC access control, there will be 3 stages basically. So first thing, it will make sure, like, to clean whatever the miscellaneous or unwanted activities or elevated access in the system. It will, first stage is to, if you see it, get clean, stay clean, and stay in control. These are the 3 main steps involved in access control basically. So this is how, what for example, SAP GRC in general, if you don't implement GRC, so people will not have access to, what, just like how, whatever audit frauds are happening in each of these individual departments, higher management will not be in a position to, to have a control. But once you implement governance, risk and compliance, access control, so management will be able to see the violation reports and access reports, everything. So basically, this is a reporting tool basically. Access GRC is, and it will help you in audit issues also mostly. So basically, to address all the audit related issues, we implement SAP GRC access control specifically. So it is differentiated into 4 modules again. So your user creation, deletion activities will be taken care by one module, and your role creation will be taken care by one module, and audit related issues will be taken care by one module. So if I show here, so okay, this is this slide. So again, access control, if you see here, these are the 4. There are, you can see it's a combination of all the 3 modules actually. This slide is not properly separated. I'm sure, like, at this point, this session is still kind of skeptic. It's not completely clear. I'll try to show the course content, what we might be dealing with in case. So security, basically, I have segregated into 7 units. So first unit mostly talks about introduction part. So don't go by this day 1 and day 2. I have made it for corporate training. So usually you can say, like, 8 hours, maybe 8 hours. So 8 sessions it will take, like, what is SAP. So all these topics, it will take, like, 2 to 3 sessions, like 3 to 4 hours. So what exactly we talk about, what we'll be doing, and user administration for creation of users, and all the user related activities, setting up of users, how these individual users are being set up. We'll be looking in user administration. And security authorization concepts mostly talks about what kind of roles and what kind of access which we give to these users will be taken care during SAP authorization concept, basically how that particular each of these activities will be working. And Security configuration mostly talks about auditing issues, and for example, if any users are misusing systems and any audit related issues will be configuration will be taken care of. And profile generation is nothing but how we create roles and how do we uh, how do we group similar transaction code, similar from business functions together and make a role, and what could be your possible strategies in doing this. We'll be talking. And last two units is mostly in targeting the real-time scenarios. In general, what could be the possible uh, issues we might be facing in real time. So how do we troubleshoot? For example, once these are like theoretical technical knowledge, and these 6 and 7 units mostly deals with real time scenarios. So what could be the possible, how to troubleshoot all those information. So this is security course content. Let me see GRC course. I think I have 5.3. And okay, so is it 5.3 or 10 you will be looking for GRC?
I don't have any idea, sorry. Yes.
All right, no problem. So basically, I'm sure it would be 10. So GRC is SAP GRC is one of the products, just like how we saw SAP SRM, right? SAP CRM, we saw one of these products in our research sessions, right? So SAP GRC is just one of these products. So 5.3 is an old version of GRC, which used to run on Java. And 10 is the latest version of SAP GRC. To be very precise, 10.1 is the latest version. So they have changed everything. For example, 5.3, if you see this particular unit, SAP access control, compliant user provisioning. Compliant user provisioning talks mostly about whatever we learn in this particular unit, in the first unit, right? For example, user administration. How do we automate these? For example, all these activities you'll be doing manually. Manually in the sense, for example, if you want to create a user, so you'll go into the system and perform this activity manually. But if you implement SAP GRC, right, all these things can be automated. So CUP is nothing but how do you configure that and make sure like you can automate that process. Whatever the activity you used to perform manually can be automated with GRC, abiding to segregation of duties and making sure your audit issues are being addressed. So you do everything manually in SAP, and once you implement GRC, you will know how to automate that process. And GRC, it also talks about how do you configure automation. This course content, GRC course content talks about. So I would say you can completely forget about GRC for now, because since you're completely new to SAP, so we can start the basics of security.
I got an idea of what the security is, but the GRC is a little bit confusing for me.
Yeah. So GRC is, how do I say it? I'm just trying to recollect the best example. So okay, I'm not sorry. Sorry. I don't want to confuse you by saying more about GRC. So whatever we learn in security, how do we make sure to implement it automatically? All the activities which are being in this course content, I would say 70% can be automated. Automated in the sense like make your life will be made easy. And for example, if you have 100 users in your system, for example, if you have newly hired 100 people in your land for a new project, and if you have only SAP R3, you have to go ahead and create all the 100 users in SAP, right? Or in any system, or in your landscape. And if you have implemented GRC in your landscape, all these creation can be automated basically. So just with few clicks, all these user IDs will be created automatically.
Okay. So it is more of a thing like advanced.
Yeah, much more advanced, I would say. So and there are two parts in that basically. production support and implementation. So we'll be looking into that from an implementation perspective. For example, if you have SAP in your landscape and if you wanted to implement GRC, how do you do it? So it's not like, okay, I can go ahead and try to work on SAP GRC. People won't hire you for that. So people will hire you if you know how to implement that. So basically, so how do you configure that tool which can accommodate your landscape issues? For that, you have to understand a functionality of security. You have to understand that particular client's business and make sure, like, you can, how do you integrate this? So this is what, in short, I know we cannot cover everything in in a demo session. So I'll try to make you comfortable what SAP security is and what it will be dealing with. So in short, GRC is nothing but it's an advanced level of security, but with the proper implementation of auditing guidelines and whatever, even though whatever we automate, GRC will take care, like, every audit issue is being addressed. For example, if I had to create 100 users, GRC will make sure, like, all the 100 users which are being created are created in a proper way. For example, no user will be having elevated access, segregation of duties, audit issues. No user will have any conflicting activities. For example, there could be two functions, how would I say, creation of vendor and approval of vendor. So these two activities are conflicting. So it will make sure, like, even though to whatever extent you automate it, it will make sure, like, they are still abiding to how would I say, land of the laws. So even tomorrow, if the auditor comes and asks you, like, why this user is created, it will have all the proper approvals in place. For example, if you are trying to, another challenge what you might face is, if you're trying to set up 100 users, you make sure, like, you have all the approvals for all the 100 users manually. So for that, you might have to shoot 100 emails to their managers. So if you implement GRC, and this tool itself will trigger an email to the managers, and every email will have a approval from their managers, and it will be properly maintained in the system. So even tomorrow, if some auditors comes and, okay, show me some evidence why this user ID is created. Okay, show me the evidence that the access which this particular user is an approved one. So GRC will make sure that these approvals are in fact, and it will have evidence properly. So even from a higher level perspective, the management wants to see, okay, how many people are into each business process. It will give you, there is one module called risk analysis and evaluation, where it is mostly used for reporting purposes. It will give you a brief snapshot of how many violations are there, how many people with elevated access, how many people with these kind of information, all sorts of possible reports you can pull out of that particular tool. Likewise, n number of possibilities are there. So this is what, in short, about security and how would I say, GRC. This is hardly, I would say, maybe 1% or 2% of security, I would say. It's not even a trailer, I would say. So any questions, his job responsibilities, he will be given that access in the system.
Yeah.
So right. So since we'll be doing that in a test environment, we'll have access to everything, so we can play around.
Okay. So you'll be giving all the real case scenarios, then how to do it.
The real time scenarios, you have business cases, you have case studies. One second.
Yeah, that's what I needed here.
Yeah, case studies. This is for security.
It's not just that I want to learn all the...
Yeah, see, I know. I totally understand what you're trying to say. Just learning the technical skills is of no good if you don't know how the business works.
Yes.
So I know. So we will... One thing what I can assure you is after this course, you will be in a position to clear any technical interview. And yeah, one more question I wanted to ask, like, what are your plans maybe once you're done with the course? Like, are you planning to try any job as a fresher, or
Yes,
are you
yes.
trying to put up some experience?
Yeah, I definitely without experience here it can't work, right? Definitely I'll
Okay.
put some experience and I'll
Yeah.
go.
Yeah,
I'll
that's
do the
what. So
interview.
I know like how business works there. So
Yeah.
don't get me wrong. So that's how I
No,
made
no.
mine.
Everything
So
works here like that only. So.
yeah, I know that. So even the same thing is happening with a couple of others too. So and yeah, one of the other students which I have, like she was from straight away. She'll be done with maybe MS in a couple of months. So she's planning to do as a fresher. So in those kind of scenarios, they don't have to show any experience. So for them, it would be a bit less work, I would say. So since you will be going into the market with some added up experience, so you might have to put in a bit more extra efforts and more business case scenarios you might have to go through. So I would say anywhere between, and what are the comfortable timings? Comfortable timings in the sense like 1 hour or 2 hours a day. It also depends on that also.
Okay.
So the time 1 hour a day, I would say initially 1 hour a day should be fine till you get comfortable with SAP and SAP security. So maybe the first 2 or 3 weeks,